ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rob Shearman!
Okay, this side. Right. Excellent.
Welcome back to the sir.
Thank you.
It's about 10 years.
It's been exactly 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
Which is strange.
Yeah.
You know, that's how long you've left it.
Yeah.
It's like it's on the decade anniversary. Yeah, so 2026 is my next job,
Yeah.
when I can explain what I think about Doctor Who. You know, I think about Bad Wolf by then.
Yeah.
Indeed, Class.
Class, yeah. Who's seen Class?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think of it?
It's different.
It is different. Yes, no, it's good.
That's your very first, as the link to this, is it? Your very first actual exploiting the Doctor Who was the DVD spin-off audios.
Oh God, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of forget I did that, but yes, that's true. Yes. Yeah.
He was Punchline, wasn't
Punchline. I mean, it kind of wasn't first. I mean, Big Finish got me first, and I think rather to their irritation, in the meantime, while I was writing what became the Holy Terror, BBV messaged me on a message board and said, "Hi, we do some audios, and we've got to do one next week." And the guy who was doing it is now dropped out. Could you write us a script by Friday? And I said, yeah, if you want. Because I was actually at that point stupid, and I was younger. So I wrote this thing called Punchline, and it took me, I think, 1.5 days to write. And by Friday we had Sylvester McCoy pretty much, you know, because he's the only sort of regular who was in it, which was actually the thing that they said, we haven't got Sophie, and I said, all right. And I thought, well, that's a fairly standard thing in my head anyway. So, I mean, so we put it in, and yeah, it was done on Friday. I mean, it's the quickest turnaround I've ever done. And then Big Finish, I think, not understandably, Gary Russell messaged me and just said, actually, we're kind of their enemy. We're trying to establish ourselves, and we're not entirely sure why you did that.
Yeah.
And I said, oh right, I was just taking some more work. And they said, yes, perhaps that was a mistake. And I said, to tell you what I'll do is I'll invent the idea for various comic reasons. It was a pseudonym I need to write. And then pretended for about 10, 20, 25 years, which is the sort of length of time this has taken for me to tell this, that actually it was all part of the plan I always wrote under a pseudonym to begin with. But that's the actual truth, is that I was just very, very stupid. I wrote something which I didn't realise put my future employees as a joint, just as they even first got to know me.
So yeah. So someone back to you were commissioned to actually write the proper Doctor, and you have to pretend Doctor.
Yeah, which was actually it's pretty much what Gary Russell said.
Yeah.
He said, no one before has sort of come along, been commissioned to write, you know, a licensed Doctor Who, and then gone away to annoy us writing an unlicensed one just to show us that you can. And I said that wasn't really the idea of it. But yeah, I mean, it was all forgotten. I mean, quite literally, I had actually forgotten I ever wrote that audio.
Oh, sorry to bring that up.
No, it's fine. I think it's just the same as my other stuff, isn't it? Yeah. It's the same basic idea. I did Big Finish 6 times. Just someone trapped in a fictional world. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. Is that my first ever Doctor Who story was Cash Revolver. And I was thinking, if I'd only wanted, 2 weeks, everything I'd be writing about would be on a big spaceship populated by frogs, and that would be the constant thing I write instead.
I think I'll get commissioned today, actually.
It probably would, yeah, with some Mayan dancing thrown in. But that's obviously, I think that is what the new series needs, and it's actually why I'm personally quite furious with Class. Because I was really hoping it would be a Mayan dancing spin-off.
Imagine the cultural reach you would get with that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, particularly in this day and age,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, in a day when we actually need, I think, to look out culturally and realise there are other cultures out there, other nations out there who give to us. I think that Mayan dancing, perhaps strictly become Mayan dancing, would actually be a very, very worthy, valid way of the BBC, making making money to burn, putting Doctor Who names somewhere in the corner. I mean, that's what I think they should do.
Or banking for the president, obviously.
Yeah. It would work.
Yeah. But when you look back at that time of the unlicensed media,
Yes.
yeah.
buy everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I bought Auton and Shakedown and Mind Game Trilogy.
Did it really feel like we were getting one over on the BBC by did it?
No, I think we were getting over on us,
yeah.
particularly me, because I hadn't got any money. And I'd go into Britain down down into that, it was the one which was sort of near Tropical Road at that point, and we go down into the basement. You'd say, oh, there's a video out, which features some monster from Doctor Who in a mask that I don't really think looks like the TV series. It's going for 20 quid, which was when it was worth a really awful lot of money. And I'd buy it, take it home, watch it, and think, I mean, it's okay, but it is still worse than the worst example of televised Doctor Who.
Is it just like this fix when you're out at the time, you would sound anything could?
Well, that's how I felt. I mean, I've got this memory actually. I was working a lot in Scarborough for Alan April, and being on that sort of slow train from New York to Scarborough, and I've got it written down somewhere. I was so sad. I mean, not just sad in a sort of sad Doctor Who fan way, but sad in actually suddenly just suddenly it overcame me just that the Doctor Who was gone. This was years after, and I just wrote down, because I could, in order, every single Doctor Who story. I've still got the list because it's in my notebooks from writing the play at the time. And then I just began adding things like Auton and Mind Game and Shakedown and Downtime to prove to myself it was still going on. And it made me feel incredibly miserable. And there was a Doctor Who magazine issue around that time as well, which was where they did their fictional what if it had carried on beyond survival. And I read that article about 30 times because it made me feel, happy and satisfied. Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought it was it had on the cover. It was what's his name? Richard Griffith.
Richard Griffith, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Dreyfus would have made it a completely different thing. But yeah, I mean, but I was so excited for a while. I mean, caught up in the sort of, I'd read fanzine articles about what would have happened if ... And I'd get really sort of blind drunk on sort of false nostalgia for things which were never actually made. And it would make me, if only it stayed on, I thought. And I used to get upset about that. So if anything was ever released, like the probe videos with Liz Shaw solving crimes I didn't understand, written by Mark Gatiss.
Yes.
I'd go and buy them and watch them over and over again, as if they were Doctor Who, knowing they weren't, and still thinking, well, you never know, it might come back one day like this, I thought. It didn't.
No. What good do you think came out of that period? A lot of people are embarrassed by it.
No, and actually, even though I'm mocking it, because the probe videos are very old.
Yeah.
What came out really was the fact that we wouldn't create stuff. Same as the View Adventures, which I find by turns quite wonderful and breathtaking the fact they were going on, and at other times quite literally unreadable. Is that people just, I mean, the polite thing to have done would just be to say, well, this is a show that after 26 years, which is quite a good innings, and really we ought to let that go on that way and just die. And yet we didn't, but by the time it did get announced to come back, thanks to things like the BBC books, which was still doing at that point 22, I think, novels a year, and Big Finish Audio, they were gathering pace even at that point.
Yeah.
I know it seems to be up to about Zach Gray's kind of time that the announcement came. I know Zach ruined my one, Skirts Off, because we had this idea that Paul McGann would be forever in this divergent universe, and then we got an announcement from BBC saying, coming soon, Doctor Who, obviously on Earth, in a new incarnation, so we knew that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
But but at that stage there was so much going on. We were so thick of new Doctor Who because we were making it, and we were proud of it, and I think we were very, very right to be.
Yeah.
And I find that in a way it kind of became sort of symptomatic of the way in which eventually we just forced it back on. I mean, the way it did come back on, it was by no means the BBC with great wisdom suddenly saying, you know what, we'll make a wonderful hit show, let's bring back Doctor Who. It wasn't that way at all. I mean, I was in the early meetings. I mean, it was a sense of sort of strange panic in the room occasionally, where we all just laughed hysterically, because we couldn't get to believe that we'd actually conned the BBC. mean, Russell was someone sit there and said, he said, "Oh, I've had another memo." He said, "Oh, the BBC is saying to me again, I can stop if I want." They've done a survey, and it turns out that no child in the world in England knows what it is, and no adult wants it because it's embarrassing. It's the least watched revival of all time. Hooray! Let's just carry on anyway. And it really wasn't. I mean, I went to a BBC meeting very early on in BBC London. I went to the reception desk. This is honestly true, even though it takes on over after 10 years a sort of anecdotal flavour. But I went there and I went up to the front desk and said, "Hi, I'm here for a meeting with Dr. Who, Russell T. Davies, Chief Private Secretary." "No, you're not." And I said, "I am." He said, "No, it's not coming back. It's just really fed up with all these fans coming up to the front desk." "No, it's not coming back." I said, "It is, I'm right." He said, "No, you're not." He said, "Why would that come back?" I said, "Well, because we're making it." He said, "No." He said, "Seriously, if you don't leave, I'll have to ask you to go." I said, I'm a writer." He said, "You can sit over there if you want, but you know, if they haven't come for you in a few minutes, I suspect you'll have to leave." I said, "Right, is that now?" And the room was full of people who were all extras, as it turns out, for a casualty in Holden City. And about 5 minutes in, someone just got up and said, "Right, casualty, hope," or whatever it was, "come along." And then she looked at me and I said, "No, I'm staying here because I'm writing Doctor Who." And she said, "So be it." And all just got up en masse, all these people who were going to be in beds and things this went. And the man at the front there said, I said, "No, remember, I'm the one who's," "Oh, yeah. And then Russell and Judy did actually show up and say, "Oh, the train was late from Cardiff." Oh, and I said, "That man said that it wasn't going to." He said, "Oh, yes." He said, "But you just wait." He said, "In a year's time, no one will be able to run thick in these places for fear of running into all the Doctor Who fans that we've created." And that's kind of how it felt a bit. You know, it really actually did feel up until they cast Chris, which was actually when the BBC suddenly said, "Oh, you're taking it seriously." And it really was almost that sort of overnight reaction. I mean, up to that point, it was drafts of going along and people just thinking we're going to cast Paul Daniels.
So it was just like a pet project for Russell to keep happy into the gay drama to the awards.
I don't fully know what happened. I've got a certain theory, which obviously, you know, we'll just keep to ourselves in case it's absolutely rubbish. But I have a theory that what happened was that Lorraine Hegarty, who had wanted to bring it back, had been mentioning it for quite some time, and was always told, "No, you haven't got the rights, you haven't got the rights to Doctor Who." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then eventually, I think what happened was, you know, the Schalke came, you know, the originally got animation, and she just, right here, just said, "Is that it? Is that what we've been waiting for?" And they said, and she said, "Well, no, we'll announce it right now." She did it without actually going through the usual channels of having to, you know, send out sort of people to bring out a report about what the Doctor Who was really wanting. She just said, "No, we're bringing back Doctor Who," and then everyone had to respond to the fact that it was a big news item. And I think that it got sort of under the radar because of Lorraine Hegarty's frustration. So we owe Schalke an awful lot. I mean, and it's actually not bad. I also feel sorry for Stuart Schalke.
It's a fun curiosity after all these years.
Yeah.
Is it like, for once, it's a visual what's it?
I feel very guilty because at the first convention we ever met at,
Yeah.
the Panopticon in 2003, and they were showing it. You know, it was actually just after we'd had an announcement of the new series anyway. I think it was a very, very full-on time. It was before I knew I was involved with it, and I was sitting in the screening room, and as you do, and often because I've been this with like Fountain over in the corner. I mean, we are not always very discreet. You'd sit there and you just start mocking it. And then I think everyone from Fiction Lab was just me, and they got turned around and glared. I was like, "That rubbish. What's that?" Or is that meant to be sort of people moving? I would say out loud and have a laugh in my own sort of sarcastic, nasty way. And you know, and also sitting there thinking, "Well, I'll never back you involved in bringing it back." It doesn't matter. I can just laugh at it like a very, very annoying, jumped-up fan who does things on audio. And I think Schalke was actually quite good, really. It's a very, very, you know, again, it's actually part of that. What I'm saying, it was part of that, the way in which people just wouldn't let it stop. To say, "No, we're carrying on. Now we're going to cast a new Doctor." It's just awkward timing for them. That history made them look like idiots because they couldn't know what was around the corner.
Yeah. The thing Doctor, you said about that security guard desk.
Yes.
Does that mean there are actual fans walking in to the BBC at the time?
Of course there was.
Adrian Riggles to be involved with the show.
Adrian Riggles is actually a really good example. I mean, even after all these years, if you speak to Graham Harper about it, he still believes that was a real project. Even though actually what really happened was just that Adrian Ribblesford is a tremendously persuasive.
Well, this is the doctor I mentioned.
Yeah, and he's very, very persuasive. I mean, that's how he gets with everything. And he just made them believe that it was true. That he'd said, well, this department is, they'd say, really, this department is commissioned. Oh, okay. And it went on a certain length of time before someone actually checked. And of course, then it just stopped. But people still believe that actually that was a real thing. It wasn't a real thing, it was done by Adrian. In the same way that, we would get in Doctor Who magazine at that time articles about the return of 10th Planet Part 4, to the point where I've got on DVD Michael Craze on a video saying, now welcome back to, it's just been discovered, 10th Planet Part 4, for the impending BBC video of something which didn't exist because the scam worked long enough. And yeah, I mean, so people would go back into it. I mean, I remember, because I was working at the BBC at the time, doing Born and Bred for a guy called Chris Chibnall, that we never heard of again. Never happened to him. And it was, even at that, it was 2002, and it was going to be announced only a year later, but we had no idea of that. And you go into meetings, and even though everyone writing it and working on it, Chris Chibnall, obviously, but also, Paul Cornell was writing it, my editor, Will Schindler, did some Big Finish audios. We were all massive Doctor Who fans. But we couldn't even mention it in the building easily because it was a real no-no. Yeah. Because it looked very, very much like... It was the equivalent in a meeting, if you call that Doctor Who, of sort of suddenly, in a script meeting, just getting up, in front of your execs and then just peeing into a bucket in the corner of the room. It just didn't do, because, and I know because I did try both of those things at one point. It was roughly the same reaction I found when I worked on Born and Bred. There was an awful lot of bucket pissing during the making of Born and Bred, which if you've ever seen Born and Bred, you would know. It's all up there on the screen. It really is. That's a real bucket piss moment. Anyway, sorry.
It's all right. Hope you enjoyed the bucket piss talk.
Yes. It's true.
Sure.
It's not entirely true.
So when Richmond was shut down,
yes.
Finally had to write Darling.
Yes.
Together.
Yeah.
How, you've been a fan for all these years, Doctor Who was set for certain templates, wrote and how it's written Big Finish as well.
Yes.
How did you handle trying to push all those to the side to create an entirely new format?
Pretty badly to begin with, actually. I mean, I try to take my cue from Russell, because that was obviously Russell had sent us, all of us, the writers, just before Christmas 2003, scripts for Rose and England and London, which was really exciting. If you can imagine, big Doctor Who fan, they get your writing back, you get them post the first televised Doctor Who episodes in 16 years or something, first series. And there they are, they come through, they're marked BBC, confidential, and your name is automatically every page in case you ever go to eBay and try and make money out of it. And I read them, and I thought they were terrific. I mean, they were so unlike the print videos. I mean, you could tell this was written by a really passionate writer, but at the same time, you also kind of knew that it wasn't giving you his Androzani, that this was the beginning of the series, which actually, would obviously grow. And I'd written Big Finish audios, as I say. I've got a very, very clear idea in my head of how you write generic Doctor Who things. And I'd always written things like Paul McGann, and you went into it writing a generic Doctor that they would flesh out. And you write something that was just terribly clever, and he thought was quite witty. And that wasn't how Russell wrote it. Russell wrote a Doctor who said, I want to do this, I'm going to go do it, I'm going to do that. And written in that vernacular. It really pulled me up short. Yeah. And Russell in a very early meeting said to us, and this is no insult to any man in this building, he probably is still asleep, he said, but we mustn't write this like it's Colin Baker. We mustn't write it like it's a man who is, fed upon his own verbosity. It has to be a man who actually feels the audience very, very modern and very, very natural. That was the hard thing about it. I mean, that's why he wrote Warner and Goneril. It was like a reminder to us. Obviously, the actor playing it would understand wanted to or going to. Yeah. competitive one who very cast, but Russell was very, very keen that we just try and shake that out a bit. And also because I wasn't very good at writing visual Doctor Who. I mean, when I was on Born and Bred, because it was my first proper TV stuff, I was the one in the first draft to do sort of 2.5-hour scripts. It was the right number of scenes, but I'd make them like they were theatre. People just talk to them more than they should do, because that's what I do. And so I was very, very conscious of trying to write a script which was very, very visual, which was actually good they gave me Darwin for that. Because it forced me to be, you know, it was exciting to be writing what was, I mean, I went and watched an awful lot of films like, I remember watching Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, because I thought, well, I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll learn how to write an action film. And I wish I thought, nah, actually I probably don't. But it was trying to sort of, nevertheless, get an energy to that. I mean, that's what I wanted, was a sense that Doctor Who now was going to be fast. Which, you know, when we were getting things back when I was still writing, I was watching the rushes for Rose. And that energy at the beginning, I mean, some of it feels a bit misguided now. It's almost so, hey, 21st century London. But yeah, it was...
Sightseer's Guide to London.
Yeah, but that's actually what it had to be.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do Dark in a sort of similar way. And yet I still wrote really, at times, long scenes that they still film. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Chris Meet in the Dark for the first time is very, very long for television. And there are, I think, 3 scenes in this, which, I mean, everything which I had involved in the Doctor of the Dalek, I wrote in the audio with a bit less dialogue, but they're still long. All 3 of those accounts are very, very long. So.
When you first started writing the script,
Yeah.
with the previous British Doctors, you had their voices were in your head, so you could guide it.
Mostly, yeah.
How was it writing before a Doctor who you had no idea of the voice at all when it first started?
It was tricky, but then it was one of things like Chance of Midnight, again, because I didn't like the TV movie, I didn't want to go by that at all. It was just trying to write what I wanted to write. With Chris, it was harder because it was trying to write Russell's Doctor as opposed to my natural instinct Doctor. But actually, it was quite exciting not knowing. It was exciting hearing the rumours online and still not knowing. And you'd write to Russell and you'd say, hey, that we feel a bit like me so-and-so. And he'd go, oh, wouldn't that be fun? But he wouldn't ever say, actually, no, we're not going to say. I mean, I remember writing to Russell once, because in the early days I did it a lot, because I assumed that was the relationship you're going to have with your showrunner, which it turns out you don't. He kind of eventually just stopped doing it. I wrote to him and just said, oh, you won't believe what they're saying on Gallifrey Base, Russell. They say you might cast Billy Piper as Rose. He went, oh, the idea! Exclamation mark. Just think. Which, of course, you know, he did.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably my fault. although she, you know, again, she was amazing. You see, up until the first read-through, it's awful to admit, but up to the first read-through, and I remember having this strange dream. And I was having a lot of bad dreams around time, because we had to, at this point, we just lost the Daleks. But on that first read-through, I had this idea, just this strange idea, like, here we go to the BBC Wales read-through in Cardiff, and she'd be sitting there, and I was just such a, you know, bastard. I mean, I really thought, because she was a pop singer, she probably couldn't even speak. And we get the script, and she'd say, and I remember it in my head, my name is Rose. I live in London. And everyone would go, oh, well, London. we can do that afterwards in post-audio. And I really had that thought. And of course, you know, that was such a terrible mid-30s, even at that stage coming on to middle age, old fuddy-duddy reaction to the fact that I had no idea really who she was. And God, she was good. She was really good. And of course, I was writing a script which was also very, very Rose-heavy. She was carrying all this, you know, a whole emotional train episode. And I kept thinking, oh, really Billy Piper, I thought. Because I'd heard rumours online that it was like the Audrey tattoo from Amelie. I had, which actually would have been... Who was that, sorry?
She was, I only ever saw her in that awful Timelines.
I don't know. The thing is, the best part of the odd thing about it was writing it. And still being a massive Doctor Who fan, you go online and you read the rumours, and you wonder if any of them were true, even though you kind of knew they weren't. You say, oh, what if that is true? You think, no, it is, of course it's not true. It's been in a meeting about it. But maybe, you'd say, no, because actually that is the awful thing about being a Doctor Who fan, is that you always love a good rumour. Even when you know it isn't true, you wonder if it might be. Even actually, even if you, I mean, I've seen evidence of it the other way around. I've seen people create rumours for a laugh, and then see it reconfirmed in the Sun, because they picked up and they go, oh my God, it's true. He said, no, look, you made it up. You remember making it up? We had this actually around the top of Dark. There was somebody who put up a very, very convincing and actually rather annoying. Yeah. The rumour was, looked at your theme, she would be good face for the tune of Art of the Arches. But no, they killed off Dick Bart. Someone put up a sort of draft synopsis of what they thought my episode was. So I knew it was a Daleks tale.
Yeah.
And they called it Cargo. It was really, it was like Alien. It was really good, and I remember the person doing it and thinking, yeah, okay, that's a bit of fun bit of fan fiction there. You're pretending it's real, but it's fun. But actually, it's quite clever. And then that got picked up by the tabloids, and then that guy himself online went, oh my god, it's really happening. And I thought, you made it up. But he was saying, oh, no. I mean, he actually managed to convince himself that he was like a prophet. And so there is that sort of thing going on. So during the time I was working on Doctor Who, occasionally it would, I always think it did create something. I remember, again, writing to Russell one night and saying, it was during the recording of Aliens in London, and people were out taking photographs of everything. Because at that point, it's hard to imagine now, but everyone cared an awful lot about every single aspect of it. Because this could be the only time it was back, was this, while we ruined it in these 13 episodes. So you had to preserve all of it. I remember Nick Briggs going around and videoing every single thing. He barely shows up on set now, but at that point. Yeah. And it was the Bad Wolf thing. And there was a photograph taken of the titles of the words Bad Wolf written on. And I wrote to Russell saying, all the theories about Bad Wolf. He said, oh, that's quite a good idea, actually. He said, tell you what, stick in your script somewhere a Bad Wolf reference. And I said, what do you mean to? I don't know. Let's just put the words Bad Wolf in. I might just mean that, I might not. And there really was that sort of free-floating idea. Yeah. He was still writing it. He hadn't written at that stage the last episodes. And he said, well, actually, it might be quite fun. So, I often have wondered just, because you can never tell with Russell. Yeah. There was that one time he let down his cards, as it were, when we ran out of, when we had no monster for episode 6. I went over to his house in Manchester and just said, okay, I have an idea for a replacement monster. And I had intended, if the series gets recommissioned, this to be the big villain at the end of series 3. And it was the Tocqueville. And of course, they were. And I wonder actually just sort of how much he had, because he would never let on to us, sort of these vague plans for the future. That he really did know the Masters would be the series 3 villain, and series 2 would be Cybermen, and series 4 might be Davros. And it wouldn't surprise me, actually. Russell he's an extraordinary guy. He really is. So the whole Bad Wolf thing either was made up as it went along, partly because someone actually spotted it and made fun of it online and thought it was a big thing when it wasn't, and Russell made it while anyway. Yeah. Or it really was always part of this sort of strange plan. Yeah.
I was going to say that online fandom was starting to build at that time. It was first release, yourself was involved in it.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel that you'd have to push away? Because I know Steve left when he was.
It was easier for us though, because I feel terribly grateful that there was no Facebook or Twitter at the time that we did the first series. It just meant that the online reaction I got was on websites I would go to purposefully and check. It wasn't like social media would force me to say that I was the worst Doctor Who writer since Louis Marks or whatever. So, the difference now is that people like Stephen are besieged. They will get hate mail every day for the last 10 years, because they dare to do Doctor Who. And you might not always like it, so you have to get to know. It's not just people writing, which is bad enough. I get people messaging me, I have one yesterday, on Facebook, drawing you to a link which you go to tell you how bad you are. You think, well, okay, it's not attacking me, it's just attacking what I did. Yeah. But it still kind of gets in the way of your having a good day's work, because you lose confidence in yourself. But Stephen doesn't, he gets a lot of that, people sending him articles which tell him just how much they hate Hellbent or something.
But it's become part of the TV culture thing now.
Yeah, he sort of accepts that. Because it's not fun, you don't want to watch it, but it's not personally directed against you. Yeah. But he gets articles about him which are all about how he's a misogynist transphobe or something, which he really isn't. And it's really hurtful for him. I mean, and during Russell's time on the show, we didn't get that because that hadn't really taken off. So you would get, I mean, it seemed at the time that the attacks on Russell, on things like Gallifrey Race, seemed pretty personal, but Russell just didn't see them because Russell just said, I'm not going to go to Gallifrey Race, or Albert Gallifrey.
Yeah.
Stephen doesn't go to websites. It's when he's forced to see it. And also when he just wants to communicate with his friends and finds by that method of communication that you're going to get people attacking him. And Chris will obviously get that. And it's difficult. It's not true, it's everything. You know, it's the way that, I mean, Twitter in itself, and I don't mean to have a go at social media, because I'm 46 and grumpy. The problem with Twitter is that when you actually have a system where you actually genuinely can reach out and say hello to anyone who's famous, including people like Donald Trump, who's, you know, I think a really decent guy. And I mean, actually, it is quite funny that if I got up in the morning to say, I want to swear at Donald Trump, I genuinely can. Well, that's actually maybe the only good thing about it. In fact, you can do that to anybody. You can just say things like, oh, I was in a movie and I think that actress there looks really old and crappy. I'm going to know. And you can. And there's absolutely no way that just because that Twitter handle, you know, everyone's got their, you know, particularly if you are a famous. I mean, Karen Gillan can be reached, and Jenna Coleman can be reached if you really want to, just so you can tell them you don't like them. And so they'll get that, you know, the fact that you know that a part of their day, every day, they'll be scrolling through people who just are going to be rude to them. Very odd.
A step back to the finish days.
Yes.
Because when you're writing down, that's the first time you can really have a product out there and get instant feedback.
Yeah.
Does that bring a whole new sense of discipline to your sort of generation of writers that you now need to want to say?
I suppose.
I mean, then you did get quite a lot of praise with it. I mean, I remember them saying, like,
I was very, very lucky,
you
actually.
were the next Robert Holmes.
Yeah. But I think what they meant was I'd become a policeman. And then I would retire and I'd smoke a pipe. I think actually that's what they meant by that.
Yeah.
Not that I wrote the script. No, it was odd. I was and remain very, very fortunate. I hadn't. I mean, my audios I did quite well thought of, even all these years later. Dalek is basically well remembered, and it means that I've kind of got away with it. But yeah, I mean, at the time, I mean, Nev, I'm sure will nod and agree because he does. You know, the fact that we had back in those days also, there were the Big Fish audios coming out. It was one a month, and there was no other Doctor Who. Then that you took on a thing of 4 weeks. You took on as that month's current release. You felt quite important, you know, and you felt like you were adding something. And the reactions that you got were quite wide because that was what people would respond to. The impression I get now, I might do another Big Finish quite soon actually, but it's such a different marketplace now.
Yeah.
You've got 37 releases a month and the show's on the air anyway. And the reactions that you get might be dissipated over a very, very long period of time. Yeah. But at that point, there really was. It was the old. It's like when you watch one of those old movies featuring people who were playing Noble Coward. There's a very, there's one starring Julie Andrews coming to and you always get those scenes where in the morning they're all about up at 6 in the morning. They're all still checking the newspapers for reviews for the night before because they're still partying. Yeah. And it was a bit like that. It really was for the things over where we've just released Chimes of Midnight. Now we go on and see what all the fans have said. You know, and you think, well, the reviews are very good. They don't understand the Talking House bit, but everything else seems to work. And it would be a feeling like that, you know. Yeah. And we would have our time in the sun every month. Yeah. And it sort of disciplines you because you want to be caught as being a good thing rather than a bad thing. And you do get that sway of what's popular and what isn't. And the hard thing, of course, is that you can't turn around. It's like trying to turn around a ship. I mean, Which Chimes at Midnight? I wrote that in November 2000, it went to February 2002, and I thought it was terrible, the script. I really did, because I wrote it so quick, I didn't think it worked. And so therefore for 14 months, I was dreading the release, because I thought, this is actually where people will be very, very rude. And then they weren't, which was good. I was actually quite lucky.
So, on the subject of Chimes of Midnight, Rob's still vinyl.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Why?
Yes. Well, I mean, it wasn't my idea. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, because I think actually it's rather fun, and I say it's quite fun because I've seen people buy it and they're very excited by it. I mean, I personally don't have a record player, and also I just would, but it's actually really nice that it's very beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah. I mean, because no. I mean, they're all. I mean, and they came over to my house and interviewed me for a documentary, which I've never heard because I can't play the records. Which might actually therefore be a documentary in which I talk about how great I am, and then it's compounded by other people laughing at my reactions, like Jason Hagello or Nick Briggs saying that it's rubbish. And actually, maybe that's the documentary is me being undermined by everybody over the course of 2 entire vinyl discs. It's possible. I don't know.
Has anyone bought it?
No, of course not. Because it costs $79.99. I mean, it's very expensive. But people are buying it. I mean, I'm not saying that they're mad. I just know I wouldn't. Because that's a lot of food. And yeah, it's but no, it's. I think it's just the idea. I think what they've done was that they released a vinyl version for the anniversary store in 2013. And that had sold very, very well. And I think there'll be people writing and asking for vinyl releases because people like to collect.
Yeah.
And so they did a big poll about what the most popular Doctor Who audios that they've ever done were. And it gets always skewed to the first few because they're the ones that people get nostalgic about. You know, in the same way that when I was growing up and watching the Davison years, as a 12, 13-year-old fan, you go to a convention, everybody loves the stuff which happened the years before. Yeah. And yet you hear, even though I was too young to see them all the time, you hear nothing but the sort of awed, hushed praise for the Seagulls or the Demons. And they're good, they are good. But it's that way in which that's what you never like in the same way what's going on now. You always, and Chimes of Midnight, which won this poll, is an example of that nostalgia now. You can be nostalgic about early Big Finish, or about Missing Adventures, because they're now far enough away that you can actually, that can be your time that makes you happy when you think back to it. So yeah.
Talking about the classics,
yes,
the ones you enjoy. Is there a
yeah,
particular,
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a particular sort of like pedestal you hold up when you try and write your Doctor stories? You like try and match or reach?
Oh, you can't. Actually, that's the problem, is you can't, because I could never recreate in my head that sort of sense of. Occasionally, I can tap into a memory where I remember what it was like to sit down at the age of 12 to watch Earthshock, and at times I can remember what it was like going into a bookshop and finding that second-hand copy of Tales of Wen Chiang, the actual target novelization, which was out of print at the time, and how excited I was to read it, and then how good it was. I read that 4 times in a row. And you think, I'd love to recreate that, but of course you can't, because you can't get back into the body of being that younger self.
Yeah.
And when you write it yourself, you just try and write something which you think is good, but it can't be. I mean, I think when Doctor Who nowadays, for me, I get fed up with it. It's when it actually feels like it's trying to do that sort of pace of nostalgia of a faded memory from when you were a kid. I mean, I don't mention names, but the reason I don't much like The Hungry Earth, so I am mentioning it now, is that it feels to me like a retread of Doctor Who and the Silurian.
Yeah.
Whereas actually what I find admirable now is something like Heaven Sent, which doesn't feel like it's trying to be new Doctor, it's trying to be something new and fresh, even though there's no way it's anything remotely like going into the bookshop and finding Tales of Wen Chiang. So it's an odd thing. I mean, I think in some ways that nostalgia can be a mistake if you're going to use that to try and do your own version. And again, it was even true doing Big Finish. I mean, what was funny about writing the audios back then was I knew they were exactly the thing that my 12, 13-year-old fan self would have absolutely hated. Because he hated comedy. He didn't like comedy episodes. He hated Graham Williams years. He hated it when Doctor Who got silly. Because I was 12 and I wanted it. If it didn't take itself seriously, then it was like it was mocking my love for it. Yeah. That's why I loved Hinchcliffe. I mean, Hinchcliffe's very funny. You realise just how funny it is when you're older. But it felt at the time to like proper Doctor Who because it was gory and it was violent, and that's what I wanted to do. But instead I wrote things involving talking penguins. And I knew that Frobisher which, you know, you have to lie at the time you're doing it. You know, you do things, interviews from the magazine saying, oh, I always approach. No, I didn't. I was 14, 15 years old, and I thought it was really stupid of a talking paper. It made me feel like the show was mocking me. But of course, years later, you say, no, that was very, very witty,
Yes.
and quite subversive. But yeah, so in some ways, I think I try to avoid what my 13 or 14-year-old self would have been doing, because he was wrong in almost every instance. About everything in life, actually.
Well, I can't think of this end. We always told doctors about it's a family show, it's children the main audience. When we do take possession of the range from the wheelchairs, why do we neglect that audience? We try to steer it too high.
Well, because it was for us, and it was better that we did do that. I mean, I mean, it's easy to look back now at some of those sort of experiments. Things like, I mean, inevitably, the Virgin New Adventures tried to assert very early on these are going to put swearing and sex and violence, because they were trying to demonstrate that we now could, and that was good. I mean, and they pulled back quite quickly. Actually, you can tell that that's actually been a bit of a dead end. But when there had been the fear and the necessity to avoid it, and I remember going to do my Oxford entrance examination when I was 17, coming back to watch Time in the Army, and just feeling offended by the fact that the show I loved was now so childish. And it was because I was, it wasn't a great story, but it was also because I was childish. So inevitably, you know, when you get that chance to write it, you want to assert, I wasn't an idiot for loving this show that's now got killed and was unloved and was being mocked. So you want to try and ask something which you think is unmockable. I mean, I remember going into bookshops and you know, I was at university and pointing out just to, I would, this is awful actually, I've never said this before, I've always, anyway, yeah, I would pretend to be an outraged parent. And I would say, why is this, why do you put this in the children's section, it's not too work, and they would say, well, it's not to do, and I'd say, look at this bit here, and I'd turn to the appropriate bit of the book and say, it's swearing there, look, there's some sex, and they'd say, oh, my word, you're right, I said, you should move this to an adult science fiction section, now, I'm not having my children read this. And it was actually my way, actually, of also saying to her, I was annoyed it was in the kids' section. I didn't mind about the swearing really, although actually I think it did get a bit out of hand. Yeah. I mean, I think Iceberg by David Banks is very, very funny. It has this wonderful bit, your pardon the language, where there's just a sentence which is just fuck you, fuck you, and then afterwards it just David Banks says it was clear that the cyclist was angry. Fairly obvious. But no, it was, you know, I mean, again, it was trying to take yourself seriously, and I think we had to do that. I think if we had just, I mean, what Russell got right was, BBC didn't even necessarily want it to be like that. I think the BBC were expecting it to be more of a cult sci-fi BBC 2 late night Buffy thing. And Russell, and they were a bit perturbed that Russell was actually pitching it, they thought, downwards to the family market. But it's because we'd come through all the years of New Adventures and Big Finish, that he realised it was now time to try and make it a wider audience thing again. And you look at all those occasional proposals to bring Doctor Who back in the 90s and early 2000s, they're all going for the sort of the more adult, taking ourselves seriously route. And that's fine, but actually that wasn't ever going to survive as a model. We had to get through our stuff to prove that actually that we could do something else. So, yeah.
Time's approaching, so does anyone have any questions?
That's understandable.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, this is an obvious one.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've got a spin-off with John Hurt.
Yes.
What do you feel about that? Would you get interested in making it?
What, TV version or original version?
TV or audio?
Well, there isn't a video version. No, really. And actually, I was asked if I would do the Big Finish audio with the Doctor. My plot, actually, you know, it's very, very wrong to say it. I'm sure that video can. My occasional fan bugbear is that, and it's silly because it doesn't matter at all, is that you sometimes, in the need to insert to every single gap, you take out some of the show's history. And I always actually rather like the idea. Like when John Hurt popped up, I love the fact that Stephen had created something which was like a hint of something terribly, terribly darker that we would never get to see. It was actually therefore going to be this sort of whole blot on this history. And actually, if you bring out War Doctor audios, I don't blame them for doing so, because that's one thing they've got John Hurt. I mean, who wouldn't do that? It's amazing that they can do that. But they can never actually really show any of this. I mean, it's a bit like Russell always had about the double time war. And Russell said to me early on, I want you in your script to actually explain the time war. Ha ha! And I said, well, what's it about? I said, I don't know. No one will ever have to know. If we just throw in the occasional words like Fall of Arcadia, it sounds great. And in fact, it's better that we don't really know. And I feel that sometimes there is that danger. And it was true in the days of the Virgin Adventures as well, where you want to do a story which sort of becomes a sequel to everything, and explain every little continuity plot hole. We've ended up in situations like Andy Lane. I don't know whatever happened to him either. But, you know, and I don't blame Andy for all this. You know, but the fact that there is a story which is written a 2,000-year later version of Twice Born as a Robot, for me, partly, I mean, it's great, it's a very good book, but it also partly spoils the moment for me at the end of the invasion when Twice Born dies. And you don't want, in some ways, that's not a spoiler, it's just true, you don't want to sort of sometimes impinge. And so, yeah, and the waffly answer, no, probably not. I don't think I'd feel confident doing it, actually. I'm glad other people do, I think it's like they do, but I would feel really.
This is also John's theory that's the reason they had John the War Doctor because Fitz Ferguson wouldn't come back to the past.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And I wasn't actually involved, I was all speaking all at the time. But it was difficult for them actually. I mean, you know, they were hoping to get this and they didn't work out. You know, BBC wanted a famous name in that part, they were going to do it. So Stephen had to create, I think, against his own fan instincts. I mean, that's the problem that Stephen will occasionally say to us socially, is that you know, he's a massive doctor who often has to do things for the show, but again make your inner 13, 14-year-old screaming because he wouldn't want that. But he knows it's good for the series, and I think that the inclusion of that War Doctor was really brilliant. And I remember when I first heard about it, I was for about an hour quite cross. I just thought that would just ruin the actual numbering of all the dogs. And one of my principal bits that in my head as a sort of somebody who likes lists, I love the fact that Tennant plays the 10, and now he's not, and that's really ridiculous, and that ruins it. But of course, actually dramatically, to say, because Russell refused to go down that TV movie route of having an on-screen regeneration at the start of Rose, to actually tidy up every gap. The fact there is a gap after all becomes so dramatic, beautiful that they could actually suddenly do that. Of course, you have to at some point, you know, take advantage of that. It's amazing. So, I mean, I don't know whether you agree.
I'm not sure whether terrible answer. I'm not sure whether you agree or not. But I can certainly see your point.
Thank you. Well, that's fair. I mean, it's difficult. I think I had done it very, very badly. I think it was a scary time, I think, for all of the anniversary. I mean, the actual, if you can imagine the actual pressure of being told, you know, you are coming to this end of cliff, which is going to be the anniversary. And it looks like you'll be in charge of it when it's happening. That's not anything like it's rather exciting at the surface. And I think as you get there, you suddenly realise that the obvious thing to do, just have a multi-doctor special, may not work out because people won't come back. And David wasn't going to come back at one point, you know, and Matt was thinking about leaving. And there was a genuine, Steve was trying to write it, but he had no doctors. and that was hard, you know, and that's terrifying. And you have to get it out, and also that you have that feeling on your shoulders. I've never had to do it, but I remember seeing him. God, he looked haggard. He just knew that he also not only could get this, but it had to be the best thing he'd ever done. Because if it wasn't, everyone would always blame him forever. So it was a hard time for him. But yeah, it's always a question.
You said before that the Doctor's been around an awful long time. People have wrote many fan fictions about him. Has it ever been a situation where you've read a really good fanfic and gone, that's not a bad idea, we'll put our slant on it and then turn it into this episode?
No. I'm actually genuinely not. I mean, only because I don't necessarily read as much fan work as I should, but also because stories are the easy part, actually. I mean, plots are the easy part. You can always come up with a good plot. It's everything else that makes it hard. So occasionally you'll get people come up to you and they'll suggest things like, wouldn't it be great if you did ... You think, well, yeah, if it was done well. But actually that isn't what excites you. It's everything else. So, no, I mean, there's always, I know that in America they have a really hard policy about not reading submissions because you're open to the abuse that you could be accused later of ripping off other people's ideas. But the actual honest truth is that you don't want to be exposed to it because your own ideas are what excites you, and that's why you're a writer. And it's actually quite almost a bit galling about occasionally being in a situation where people actually will throw an idea at you and you say, well, yeah, obviously, I mean, that we might do that. And then knowing that they'll go off and feel later on, see, that was mine. And you think, no, it wasn't yours, it was mine. It was just an idea I was already working on. So there is that. I think the awkwardness they have at the moment is that if you do a big finish, you have to get all of your ideas now past the BBC. And there is that, sometimes there's a sort of mutual suspicion that they'll give all their storylines and then they'll come back and they'll say, you can't do that, or that. And they'll say, oh yeah, and they turn up the next year, sort of vague ideas on. Because you don't, as a writer, you're not entirely sure where you're going. If someone says to you, there's going to be a sort of spin-off range doing all this stuff, and you say, I'm not sure that I want you mucking around in that area because I might do something not a million miles away. You still actually don't really like that when you come to it, because you have your own stuff. So, sorry, I'm sort of waffling, but it's... But yeah, it's not a very, very succinct.
No, that's just kind of down now, but we're going to end with a quick word association thing.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to go, first word comes to head or a quick sentence.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Particularly this time of morning.
Punchline.
Joke.
The Holy Terror.
Penguin.
The Chant of Midnight.
House.
The Maltese Penguin.
Embarrassing. Well, it is a bit.
Hey. Jubilee.
Dalek.
Deadline.
Jacobin.
I never know. Schism.
Music.
My own private book.
Mozart. Fairly obvious, actually. I'm not saying it to be revealed here, but yeah.
And finally, Born and Bred.
Jim. Actually, yeah. Yeah. Nice guy, Chris. I wish him well, actually. I mean, it's going to be... I worry for anyone taking on Doctor Who now, because it's going to be such a pressure. And he's a nice chap. Born and Bred was his first showrunner job, but he was a nice guy. I mean, I wasn't very good for him, I don't think. I just didn't write it very well. It wasn't my sort of show. But he deserves to do well. I hope he makes a fun show out of it himself.
That's what they do. Rob Shearman!